Hello and welcome. In today's video we're going to be talking about canals. I've ridden canals all over the northwest in Yorkshire, so I'm going to rank them from the absolute best, top tier, S tier canals, all the way down to, well, ones you might want to avoid. So without any further ado, let's do this. For this video, I've created a tier list starting from superior all the way down to F for not great. So I'm going to rank these canals that I've ridden into order of what I think is the best and what's the worst. Now, if you have something to add or you've ridden canals that aren't on this list, let me know because I'd love to know about your experiences and where I should go to next. And of course, if you don't agree with my rating, my ranking of these, let me know down below. Let me know what I should be checking out, what you know about this canal that makes it great. And please bear in mind that this is all really anecdotal, it's just based on my experience, so it doesn't really mean anything. It's just what I happened to experience on the day I was there. It doesn't mean I hate the town that the canal passes through, it doesn't mean I hate the people, it just means that I just didn't have a great time, okay? So don't get angry with me, please. Okay, right, here we go. So let's start out with the first canal on the list, or just the first one I feel like talking about. And I'm going to talk about the Peak Forest Canal. So this is my YouTube video I filmed for the Peak Forest Canal, so I'll leave that playing in the background so you can have a look at it whilst we talk about it. So the Peak Forest Canal, this is a pretty short ride. It comes in at 15 miles. It starts in Ashton and finishes in Leigh Branch or vice versa, and it's of course known for the Marple Aqueduct, an absolute wonder of Victorian engineering, and really elevates this canal really quite high up there. For such a short canal, this one really packs a punch. It is well worth the visit. And I know people who watch the video and who've ridden this before left comments like they do this every year because it is that nice. Now, I did this in the summertime, and that might have impacted my experience. It might have actually been spring, early summer, but everything was just coming back to life. There was lots of greenery, everybody was in a great mood, and that really impacted my experience, and it just makes for a really enjoyable ride. There's not one bit of this ride that I kind of felt wasn't good. I enjoyed all of it. I've just gone to this bit so we can have a look at the aqueduct there as well. I mean, look at that. That just elevates this ride all the way up to S tier. Just to have that, and you've got the train running in the background as well, so you can see the viaduct there and ride on the aqueduct. It's an amazing canal to ride. So for me, this one straight away, hot out the gates, is an S tier canal. Straight away, S tier ride. Well worth the journey, and the great thing is anybody can do it. It's so short, it's very easy, it's flat because it's a canal. Just everything about it, amazing. I think there's even a little tunnel to go through, which is fun. So perfect start to the video. Let's jump right into the Huddersfield Canal. Now this one's like over 20 miles long. It's probably longer because part of it's like a broad canal, which isn't included within that figure. And then you've got to get over the hills because it has Stanage Tunnel on it, which is one of the longest tunnels in Britain. Actually, I think it's the longest, deepest, darkest, highest tunnel in Britain. And it's a spectacular feat of engineering to witness. You can see it here on the screen right now. That down at the bottom is the canal entrance. Then you've got another two kind of road entrances there to one side, like service tunnels. You've got the train going through it. So it's kind of like this lattice work of tunnels, one on top of the other. It's got a little visitors centre just outside of it. So this really is like the highlight of the Huddersfield Canal. And then you can obviously go over the hills as well if you don't want to get on the train and go through the tunnel, which is what I did. It does dip in a few bits. There was a few kind of like city town centre bits I went through that weren't the best. That kind of took it down a little bit. But the Huddersfield Canal as a whole is absolutely out of this world. I would say maybe not as good as the Leeds-Liverpool Canal in my opinion. Maybe not quite as good as the Peak Forest Canal because that's just very short. So it's either going to be absolutely amazing or terrible if it's that short, because it doesn't really have much time to redeem itself. So for me, the Huddersfield Canal, that definitely is going to rank high, but I don't think it's S tier quite, but it's just short of. I would say that's an A tier canal ride. So for the Huddersfield Canal, we'll go with A tier for that one, but easily, you know, you can bump it up into S. I mean, a lot of that is semantics. So the Huddersfield Canal actually finishes on the Ashton Canal, so we'll talk about that one next. So the Ashton Canal is about 6.5 miles long, starts in Ashton, finishes in Manchester, and it's known for having... it's got the Manchester City Stadium on it. So this is me just starting the Ashton Canal. So it's an interesting one because there's not a lot to see on it. I found it quite depressing. There wasn't really anything kind of beautiful to look at. There were some nice areas of it, and there were some nice people on there. The artwork, the murals on the sides of the buildings were great in some areas. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of antisocial behaviour going on this canal. There was lots of people, like literally openly just taking hard drugs, like smoking what I can only assume was like crack or something. It wasn't the best. So sorry, Ashton. And I think it might even be where the lady was recently pushed into the canal, or allegedly pushed into the canal by the dog walker. So yeah, it's got issues. The towpaths are very narrow as well. It's very narrow towpaths, so it can be difficult to navigate in areas. So the Ashton Canal, yeah, I remember even sitting down outside of the City Stadium, and somebody came along and sat next to me and just started smoking a glass pipe. So, you know, I can only guess what was in that, but again, just openly in view of me, just had no kind of concern that I was seeing that. So for me, if I'm going to go out of my way to go for a ride, maybe that's not what I would personally be looking for. So unfortunately, the Ashton Canal, I'm gonna have to put that down at the bottom of the list as F tier. I suppose while we're on offending people, let's just jump to the Rochdale Canal here, because for me this is the most controversial video I've ever made. Anyway, I think the video is sitting around about 20,000 views, something like that. So the length of the Rochdale Canal is 32 miles. So it runs from Manchester to Selby Bridge. It's notable for having the Walsden area, so the summit section of the canal. I think that might be one of the highest sections of canal in the UK, if not the highest, so somebody correct me on that. But it's a very high section of canal, not that you'd know when you're up there, but you do kind of feel the climb slightly. You can see it features some absolutely gorgeous countryside. This is by far one of my favourite canals. Why? Because it's one I've ridden the most. In fact, I used to commute on this canal from Smeedy Bridge to Manchester, so it's one I've got to know really well, in some good ways and in potentially some bad ways. So I would say the Manchester section running through to Rochdale has its problems. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour going on there. It runs through a lot of housing estates where there's great people who live there, and I've had great conversations and interactions, but there's people who live there that maybe, you know, don't treat the canal with the respect it deserves. You'll go through some areas and people are literally just throwing rubbish over the back gardens into the canal, and the entire canal's just littered with rubbish. That was directly outside of Manchester. When I got into Rochdale, I saw the most depressing sight, which I didn't film, which was just a mother and her child feeding some ducks in the canal, but they were feeding them round like a sofa that was just sitting in the middle of the canal, so the ducks were all perched on this rotting sofa. Somebody had fly tipped a load of rubbish at the side of the canal. It just made for a horrendous sight, and it's not something, you know, I particularly enjoy having to witness. I've had a few, you know, run-ins there, mainly in the summer, you know, when I used to commute in the afternoons. Just things that, you know, nothing deadly, or somebody did try to drop a brick on me once. Just things that just don't make it an enjoyable ride. Oh yeah, I had a bad interaction with some people in Rochdale as well. When I got to one of the locks, there were some people there drinking and doing drugs. They said hello to me, I said hello back. They saw my camera, they thought I was trying to film them doing drugs or something like that, I don't know. and yeah, we got into a bit of a heated discussion. So I actually included a little bit of that in the video, although I didn't really record the main confrontation. I just recorded myself leaving because it kind of felt like I was having trouble getting away. So I thought maybe this is when I should start recording again. I'm sure everybody else who speaks to those people has a great time with them, and I was having a perfectly good conversation until they saw my camera, and unfortunately they didn't really have a reasonable reaction to that. But that's just my side of the story. Hey ho, believe me or don't. So the Rochdale Canal, the first half, yeah, not my favourite, which is what we're kind of going through right now in the background. The second half, when you go just past Rochdale, so you're still in the Rochdale area, so there's perfectly good areas in Rochdale, and then through into like Todmorden and Hebden Bridge, great little market towns, great places to stop and eat, beautiful spots, and just absolutely out of this world architecture in terms of the bridges you go under, and just the old mill buildings. So where does that place the Rochdale Canal on the list? And this is actually just where I'm about to have the interaction with the people. There we go. Yeah, so I obscured a lot of it, so you won't see much. Where would I place it on the list? The Rochdale Canal, I think, it's not a superior one, and it's not a F tier. For me, it's middle of the road. C. There we go. I'm not going to win on that one, I don't think. Right, Leeds-Liverpool Canal. Let's talk about this one. Now, for most of you will know this as the ultimate canal. The Leeds-Liverpool Canal is the longest canal in Britain at 127 miles. It runs from Liverpool through to Leeds, and it's the one that people like to challenge themselves to do it in one day. I chose to do it in 2 days. I camped, had an absolutely amazing time. Starting out in Liverpool, the city of Liverpool is a fantastic place to start, and there's so much energy in there. You've got like the music of the Beatles that came from Liverpool. You've got all the great establishments for drinking, eating, all the grand old warehouses from the Industrial Revolution that used to house tobacco and spices and fine china. It really was a hub, and it still feels like that today. There's so much to do in Liverpool, so I loved starting there. And leaving Liverpool, once you get out of Liverpool, it goes straight to beautiful countryside and stays like that for the majority of the ride. And you're going through these gorgeous little villages and towns. And me personally, I wouldn't want to do it in one day because I feel like you wouldn't really take all of that in, or potentially you'd be tempted to take some of the shortcuts that are on the canal, meaning you're going to miss, like, you know, the windmills and the sculptures and the halfway mark, you know, these kind of big landmarks of the ride. So for me personally, doing it in 2 days was probably just about right. I think 3 days would be ideal if you wanted to do it over 3 days. I think that would be the best way to do it. The Leeds-Liverpool Canal, absolutely fantastic. Surfaces are great. They get much better on the Yorkshire side going into Leeds, and Leeds is a great place to finish. So if you are thinking about doing the Leeds-Liverpool Canal, then I would say just do it. Don't even hesitate. It's one you definitely want to do. And you've got great little market towns along the way like Skipton, and there's so many. There's so much to mention. And for the quality to be so good for such a long stretch of canal, for, you know, consistently, it's amazing. So Leeds-Liverpool Canal, I would 100% recommend that. And because it's so good and it's got that quality over such a distance, that has to be S tier. S tier all day long. Right, let's get on to the Bridgewater Canal. Now this one's probably the most controversial one on the list. So the Bridgewater Canal is around about 39-40 miles long. It runs from Runcorn through to Manchester, finishes in Castlefield, and it is absolutely out of this world. Runcorn does have some things going on there with it, but I started out early, didn't experience any issues. It's great countryside just outside of Runcorn. You've got lakes and parks, and everyone was out jogging, enjoying the towpath. Everybody was friendly, high spirits. You go through some amazing towns like Lymm, which is a little market town. It's got like a stocks in the centre of it. There they are actually, where they used to, I assume, throw things at people. It's a great little place to stop and visit, and the places you go through, they're gorgeous. and it just has a level of consistency that most other canals don't have. It's one of the few ones where it's just gorgeous the entire way. Even when you get into Old Trafford, when you do the Old Trafford bit, you are going through kind of industrial estates, and they do have signs of antisocial behaviour, but personally I've never had any problems there because it always tends to be low foot traffic when I'm there, or if there are people there, it's just people who've been to watch the football game or people walking in from Castlefield in Manchester. That's been my experience anyway. I'm sure others will vary because I've seen like burnt out motorbikes there and lots of graffiti and some broken glass. But in terms of this canal in its entirety, I would class it as S tier if it wasn't for the fact that this is owned by Peel Holdings or Peel Group, whatever they call themselves. So there have been some criticisms levied against Peel for not maintaining the canal, and that's resulted in a potential breach where the entire thing has just blown out. I mean, you may have already heard of this. There's some drone footage now on the screen just showing what that looks like. It was an absolute disaster zone, and pretty scary for the people who were on the canal when that happened. But, you know, I could potentially overlook that because these canals are so old. Maybe this could have just happened anyway. But there's another huge problem with this canal, and the fact is that Peel have banned cycling on a lot of this canal. I mean, there's huge portions of it that you can't ride on, and they use really weak excuses like you can't ride on the towpaths because they're not safe to, we haven't put the investment into them. And there are parts kind of near Sale, Altrincham, that kind of area, where they have put tons of investment into the towpaths, but only because that's come from like the government and local councils and sustraints and all the rest of it. So they've got that money put in externally to make the towpaths amazing. But the towpaths on the rest of this canal aren't different from any towpaths from any other canals I've seen elsewhere in the country. Actually, in fact, some of them are actually even better in the places you can't cycle than they are in other canals you can cycle on. So really, for me, the justification they are giving for not allowing people to cycle on the towpath is pretty weak, and in my opinion is they're probably just holding out for maybe money to be given from the council, or there's some sort of anti-cycling bias snobbery going on there. But I don't know, I only can speculate. So for me, the Bridgewater Canal would be S tier if you could cycle all of it. Well worth a visit, and you can get on the Transpennine Trail and skip parts of it you can't cycle if you do want to do it. But for me, because it's a canal you can't cycle on, and in the UK we have such a struggling cycling infrastructure compared to the rest of the world, losing a canal is a crime, so that's going to have to be F tier. The Calder Hebble navigation, I'm going to just go into this one very quickly. It's not really a proper cycle route. It does have sections of canal that weave in and out of it, but really it's a river. It's 21 miles long. It starts in Soby Bridge, finishes in Wakefield, or vice versa. It's got varying quality of paths. Actually, some of it you can't really even cycle on safely. It's quite dangerous in parts if you don't know where to go. I know a lot of locals seem to know the way around it and all the ways to go, but if you're not from the area, it's difficult to work out. It's not really a ride you can just switch your brain off and follow the towpaths, because they just disappear in a lot of sections and it gets frustrating. Beautiful countryside, great places to go through. This chapel bridge here, this bridge chapel, one of the few remaining examples left in the UK. When I was in Wakefield, they actually opened it up for me to let me go in and have a look and get some shots. That was super nice of them. And Wakefield itself's just a little bit, it felt a little bit run down in places, but everybody I met there was super nice to me, really nice people. Bingley, when you go through there, that's kind of again a little bit meh, not the best. It's just it feels like you're going through an industrial estate. There's Robin Hood's grave on this route as well. Robin Hood's grave isn't marked at all. I had to traipse through the woods to find it. I had a really tough time getting there. I lost my microphone. It wasn't fun at all. I just found this one hard going, and I think even when you go through Halifax, you're not going through like the best part of Halifax. You're not going through the centre or anything. Or the canal gets a little bit it got a bit confusing for me to follow there. So really for me this isn't like the best ride, and that's Robin Hood's grave right there as well, and that's just in the woods, but well worth a visit if you're really into Robin Hood. Quite fascinating, in fact. So for me, this one, I would have to say the Calder Hebble navigation. that's going to have to go down, I'd say, in E tier. Yeah, because it's lovely enough, and there's some great areas. It's just, as a cycle path, not the best at all. And finally, we've got the Leigh Branch. This connects Wigan to Manchester Castlefield. It's about 23 miles long. It's got some really nice little locations on it, and there's actually a little basin in Worsley you can stop in and have a look at. Absolutely fantastic little spot. However, it's next to a super busy motorway. That there on screen was a car accident I was involved in shortly before going on this ride, so it was nice not to be on the roads. And yeah, I remember my back giving me quite a bit of trouble on this ride. But look at this here, check this out. This here, that land bridge, that's just outside of Wigan, and that looks like something that could be on the Danube or somewhere overseas. But yeah, no, that's just outside of Wigan, and how gorgeous is that? And that kind of summarises a lot of the routes that you're going to be taking. Until you get towards Manchester and it gets more industrially, you end up in Old Trafford again, which we kind of talked about. A little bit of a dark horse, this one. Lovely surfaces on it, as well as you can see there how good and wide those towpaths are. So a lot of investment gone into this one. In Leigh, it kind of like dips a little bit, not the best. So for me, this particular connection has to be, I would say, I'm going to give it a B. So that's B tier. So there you go. These are all of my canals I've ridden. I've put them into this tier list here for you. So if you're thinking about traveling to do a ride, at least maybe you've got some opinion. You might not agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. But I just want to say thank you very much for watching. And if you want to give a like, a comment, you want to subscribe, please do. And I'll catch you on the next one. All right, thanks very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.